Good morning, noon, evening or night, depending when you're watching this video. My name is a Legend and welcome back to World of Tanks and the Look Back at series, where today we take a look back at Operation Boiling Point, the PvE event that released with update 2.0 and also functioned as the introduction event for some of the new tier 11 vehicles in the newly added North Scar map. With the storyline of the mission being quite another key point for the overarching World of Tanks lore video, which I try to continue working on, ending in the introduction of the third personal campaign. It's yet another check-up point in which we can see how much further Wargaming got with developing these single-player battle scenarios, comparing it to the previous Operation Overlord. So let's dive straight into it. The new tanks. While you start the operation in a M26 Pershing, throughout the game mode you encounter barracks with tier 11 tanks, which you are able to switch into. I just reread the article of the game mode and it said that these new powerhouses on tracks are technologically plausible and fully historical. Well, that claim seems more hysterical to me, am I right? Plausible and historical, right? But since they are referring to an alternative history with more focus on tank development, and these three vehicles are among the least ChatGPT-like looking tanks since they represent successors to actually existing tanks. This feature to introduce new tanks or mechanics within such a game mode where you can actually play them is amazing to see implemented. The best way to experience new content is by directly interacting with them, which for a multiplayer online game can be a bit hard to do without putting those direct access or direct experiences behind a paywall. At least in the case for these tier 11 vehicles, which were only tested by community contributors and were not playable on test servers. The way they are placed within the operation is also well done, with the 432U and Taschenratte being located in the front lines of the map when you have a much easier time to brawl, while you played the Leopard 120 Verbessert in the more open area in the south, where your ability to snipe is way better. You really got a good idea how these tanks would operate in random battles as well. Although the vehicles within the operation do seem to be fully upgraded, because don't forget, when you're getting your own tier 11 it starts up at pretty much a tier 10.2 until you get all of the upgrades. The mission mechanics are quite standard. You traverse a route, encounter enemy computed guided tanks, have AI allied tanks on your side, you can respawn and call in airstrikes. There are 2 difficulty levels as well, however, this time I found the harder rigorous difficulty way easier than the rigorous difficulty in the Operation Overlord. I still managed to get down to 1 life, but from the moment I changed into the Taschenratte it was quite the walk in the park and I still completed the mission with my first try. Now, next to all of the new features being introduced with update 2.0 in the mode, the storyline itself is also quite interesting. The story follows a counter-offensive operation in order to regain control of a missile base in the Norwegian Sea. That base was attacked and taken over by an unknown enemy, who are preparing a launch of a ballistic missile with an unknown target. However, with the harsher political climate in this world, being this alternate history where the Cold War is even colder, launching this missile could trigger a global conflict. So you are tasked with a team to prevent that launch. While you are plowing through the enemy tanks, you encounter the reason why the reconnaissance and the initial tank landing forces has failed so far, as you are brawling against the next generation of modern tanks. The tier 11 tanks, that is. Eventually, you manage to deal with them, switch into a few of them, and push forwards towards the launch platform, only for you to arrive too late. The missile launched, and the best you can do now is clear up the remaining enemy forces. Even though the rocket was launched, it didn't go towards any planetary targets for potential destruction. Instead, it deployed a satellite.
What we took for a weapon turned out to be something far more dangerous. The rocket launched an artificial satellite into orbit, which began transmitting secret Reich documentation, blueprints of advanced technologies and coordinates of secret military bases with ready-made weapon samples. The man behind this calls himself the Architect. His motives are not entirely clear, but his actions have already begun to change the world order. To counter this threat, we need a force capable of defending the world from the impending chaos.
As it seems, the architect, presumably Ritter, is the new big bad within the World of Tanks lore. Like Max von Krieger, his goals are to influence the global state of affairs, although his end goal isn't clear yet. What he has done so far is going to create a lot of chaos. Therefore, the counter to it, which was proclaimed that they would take some information off that satellite and transform them into stronger forces, which resulted into the first campaign and the new vehicles you can get out of there. I am so glad to see so much storylines and lore being produced with the 2.0 update, and I really hope that we will encounter the architect more in the future. And just such a great way to theme the new campaign around such a story as well. After a long time of many celebrity collab battle passes or just collabs with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to the Terminator and such, it is great to see an actual return to some kind of original lore with these events. Sector 3 and the rewards. The campaign which the story will follow up through is actually coming from the group Sector 3, which is the group you landed with on Northscar for the operation. And they handed out some handsome rewards for completing the operation, such as Premium Day, experimental components, decals, styles, along with even bonds for the harder difficulty. Quite a standard range of rewards, but the amount of credits and free experience, 750,000 and 10,500 respectively for around 45 minutes of gameplay, are pretty generous. Nordscar. So I thought about the place played out being the newly introduced map. Again, a great way for a first introduction because you traverse throughout the entire map. Sure, you miss a bit in the middle and the top left corner that you aren't really driving through, but you get a good look around and feeling how this map operates. That way it gives you some extra initial insight on when you are actually playing the map in random battles. Of course, you still need to figure out all of the firing angles and such, but at least it is more than a head start than nothing at all. Since the map was somewhat featured in the recon missions many years ago, it has been both a long time and the map had a lot of changes, especially with the area of the launch platform. Now, I do think I would grade this map as one of the better ones. There are some major holdups at the hangar, the main heavy tank brawling area, but I cannot really think of many other holdbacks. It really depends on how many tanks are with you and against you at any time. You can always fall back a bit and rely, well, as much as you can rely on random teams, on the snipers that do have a considerable amount of comfortable places for ambush or for sniping. But there is enough cover to push further through once you have dealt with the front lines. And the music for Northscar is S tier.
Bæra I kveldsstund jeg her. Folk til strid over berg og bylja. Jeg fra, jeg en pilgrim. Bæra I kveldsstund, bæra I kveldsstund jeg her.
Even with the weird off-key trumpet, that was something that I needed to get more used to. And that has been pretty much it for Operation Boiling Point. I do think we got less variation in enemy encounters than with Overlord, also having those bunker cannons. But with all of the newly released elements, it makes up for only the pure tank-on-tank combat. The story incorporates a great additional details that somewhat explains the looks of the tier 11s, entangles the third campaign with it, and has the potential for follow-up stories where we battle against the Architect. But all of that will be more clear in the next operation, I guess, or just one operation in the future. And with that, that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Laters.